I got to tell you guys, by the time we're done with this list of verifiable turning point lies, it's going to look like a CVS receipt. You know what I mean? It's just getting longer and longer, and these misrepresentations are, of course, lies. So Brian Harpole obviously sat down with Sean Ryan, and he tried to explain how things went wrong and how it wasn't fair and woe is them, millions of dollars that we received. But this is actually the fault of UVU police, right? It's actually the fault of this Chief Long. Now, I had a lead on this for a few weeks from within Turning Point USA. Many people obviously leaking within the organization, but I wanted something a bit more solid. Like they were telling me that they knew for certain that the security did some abnormal things that day. Personally, unless I am certain as it pertains to Turning Point USA, I try not to speak on it. But as it turns out, security people are getting fired or getting moved around at Turning Point, and people's families are getting threatened. And so people in the security apparatus are starting to speak. And now we are certain. So foremost, jog your memory of what he said, what Brian Harpole said to Sean Ryan. He describes a communication that, and he says it in a very odd way. I can tell you right now, the reason why he describes his communication with the chief of the UVU police in an odd way is because it's not his communication. He's actually presenting a text message between Dan Flood and Chief Long. Take a listen to how he says it.
On Monday before, this correspondence went to Chief Long. Hello, Chief Long. We received this message today from the student group. There is a student roof access pretty close to where CK will be set up at the Utah Valley. The Sorensen Center has a couple of staircases that go up to walkways on the roofs. He comes back, and for edification, the Sorensen Center was the building in front of the Lucy Center. And so he comes back and he says, you want access to the roof. And came back and said, I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have it controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well if possible. He comes back and his last correspondence was, I got you covered. What else am I to do? When a command level person from an accredited police department says, I've got this area. Jeez.
Ooh, pick me. So I could confirm to you guys that something else that they could have done would have been to at least walk around UVU when they arrived. They didn't. Never did a walkthrough. And I can also tell you that this is a severe misrepresentation because the reason why he says Sorensen, and obviously many people picked up on this, like Lozzie is supposedly where the student got up on the roof. So why would Sorensen even matter? Well, apparently, and again, I confirmed this with security inside of Turning Point. There somehow happened to be a leak. And so they can't dispute this. But actually, Dan Flood was primarily and only concerned with the flag of halls, which is behind. That's what was behind Charlie. So I'm going to actually show you this, what they're referring to and why he says Sorensen. I don't know if your mouse can move here. I don't know if you're able to do that. It's okay if you can't. But you can see we're up there on the right where it says Sorensen Student Center. Well, there is a way, as you can see, to get down and get across to the walkway. And that's what they wanted to secure. They wanted to secure and to make sure that nobody had access above Charlie's head. And that's why he says the walkway. He knew that, by the way. Obviously, he knew the context of that. It's very strange that he's reading that off of his phone as if it's on his phone and he had the communication. That's fundamentally dishonest. He should have said, this text message happened between Dan Flood and Jeff Long, and here's what it was pertaining to, or he should have showed more, but he couldn't show more. And, Sean Ryan got played. He did, and he should be upset that he got played because they're basically using him to just propagandize the situation and pretend that they're somehow the victims. Something else that is very strange that I was told early on when all of these leaks were coming is that not only did Turning Point not walk the campus when they got there, I'm referring to the security, but also the only thing that Dan Flood apparently cared about was making sure that their SUVs had clear access behind Charlie, in and out access. So they were not concerned about any other rooftops. They were not concerned about walking to make sure that they had access to other rooftops, obviously, or to make sure that they could see what points it was that the people could just walk onto the courtyard. They weren't concerned with any of that. All they cared about, for whatever reason, was the flag of halls, controlled access in the flag of halls. And I'm wondering if that reason is because, this is really interesting, but I told you it's kind of strange that there were only 2 videos of people really that saw the alleged shooter on the roof that sprinted off of Losi. I found that to be quite strange. There were a lot of people there that day. There was a lot of action that was caught. There wasn't even any more testimonies that came out. And when we hunted down the origin of those videos, I found it strange that those students who shot it didn't post it themselves. They went through third-party people, fourth-party people. One person, both of them, jumped through multiple hoops to get that video out. And when we tracked those people down, both of those students or non-students were in the military, right? ROTC. I found that to be very interesting and compelling. And I am wanting to know more about what was happening in that Hall of Flags. Something is off here. There seemed to be a lot of buzz about the Hall of Flags. Even that Indian kid that we had showed you was taking that shot, who said like, oh, I didn't know Charlie, but he was really popular, was posting all of these videos and somehow gave his videos to the news. He was in the Flag of Halls, or the Hall of Flags, pardon me. I think more needs to be known about what was going down in the Hall of Flags, and I intend to find out what that was. But Turning Point's security completely dropped the ball, and they knew they dropped the ball, and yet they then tried to pass that off by misrepresenting text messages. Why? Why is he protecting Dan Flood? Why isn't Dan Flood speaking? Has Dan Flood been fired from Turning Point USA? Was this actually just a propagandist mission to sit down with Sean Ryan and to lie and misrepresent? Everybody's instincts were correct about that interview. We are still being told lies by Turning Point. Now,